I love to use jokes and comedy to talk about social issues. As the years go by, I know it's getting harder even for me to do it because a lot of people, instead of like looking into, hey, what is the video trying to say? It's more like, oh, you said it, you mentioned it. And I knew it was going to come from the woke culture. People came up to me saying that how could I grow the hair of black people
Oh man.
and do comedy? And I'm like, what?
Oh my god.
While the world's still asleep, we're already grinding. Walking foreign streets, big city lights so blinding. Learning and hustling in this relentless game. The emerge pods next up, we're breaking the frame. Yeah. While the world's still asleep, we're breaking the frame. We already grinding. The emerge pods next up, we're breaking the frame. Big city lights, woo, so blinding. Check it out.
Hi, and welcome to the Emerge podcast, where we break down emerging markets and give you actionable insights on how to start and grow your business in them. Today, we're talking to Ben, also known as the Smiling Afro, who is a content creator and videographer based out of Singapore. Now, because of his work and his large audience based primarily out of Southeast Asia, Ben has a very unique understanding of what it takes to advertise in this region, and he was also able to shed light on some of the cultural nuances that brands might face when operating in this region. Check it out.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the Emerge podcast. I am so excited to have you here because I have not had a chance to interview an influencer before. And, I was going through your content a couple of days ago, and I found that, you're doing something pretty great. So the first question I think I need to ask you is, how did Ben turn into the Smiling Afro?
Wow, yes. So it's a long journey, but I'll try to keep it bite size, right? So
Okay.
my background is in filmmaking, and I've always loved acting since a young boy. And this was like pre-Afro, right? So, young
Okay.
kid, short hair. I got to keep short hair. So when my hair is short, it doesn't curl. It's just normal straight hair. And so when I got into after secondary school, I really wanted to get into media and filmmaking because since my background was in theater, I loved acting, and I do enjoy the medium of video and film to share stories. So I decided to go into that industry. And in film school, as any film student would tell you, the first thing you wanted to become was like a film director. But it was
Of
through
course.
the course that I realized I loved advertising even more. Because I think, well, for Singapore at least, advertising is where the money is. With such a small economy here, so filmmaking may not be like a very sustainable in the long term. So I said, okay, I want to go into advertising. And so after uni, I was like, okay, I'm going to go and apply for a job in advertising. But at the same time, for the longest time, I've always wanted to start my YouTube channel, but I
Okay.
didn't have the guts because it's like, once I start my channel, everyone's going to see my face. I'm going to be there forever, going to be judged forever. There's no running away from it, right? So, but after uni, thrown into the adult world, everything, I really wanted to challenge myself to do something I was afraid to do when I was looking for a job. So I started my page, The Smiling Afro, as my nickname. Oh, yeah, so I missed that big part out, right?
Yeah.
So when I went to, after secondary school, I went to Polytechnic in Singapore, and that's when we can, look however you want to look, basically, right? We can be our most expressive self. So I decided to grow my hair long for fun because I figured, why not? It's a chance in my life to
Yeah.
see how I look like. Right? We all need that face, right?
Of course.
So yeah, and then my hair started growing, started to curl at certain lengths.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, okay, because my father has curly hair, but he's never kept it so long, right?
Yeah.
Because he's
He
in a
never grew
corporate
it out.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
corporate world stuff, right? But then I grew it out. I was like, hey, this is what my dad would look like if he had grown out his hair. But they never knew if I would had his hair because I always had short hair, right? And that kind of like changed the people around me. Everyone was started calling me, hey, the Afro guy, or hey, how
Yeah.
the Chinese face with Afro hair, like how is it possible? But most of the reactions were positive. So it
Of
was like, oh,
course.
that's so cool. Oh, that's so unique. And for me, I was like, well, this is my natural hair. This is who I am. And I decided to embrace it. So The nickname Smiling Afro came about because I love comedy, and I was like, hey, I want my nickname to have something to do with Afro and like comedy. So hey, the Smiling Afro. So I started
It
my
makes sense.
page,
Yeah, makes sense.
right? Yeah, and so I after university, I started my page and said, okay, I announced it to the world, all my friends and family. I finally decided to take the leap into this content world for fun. Honestly, it was for fun. I just loved making people laugh, making funny videos for fun. So that was my project on the side. I go work full time on the side. I have this hobby where I make videos for fun.
Sure.
And I started my channel in February 2018.
Wow, you've been at it for a
And
while, 6 years.
yeah, yeah. So I started it honestly thinking, hey, this is just be a fun side thing. I
Yeah.
never thought it would be a business. I never thought I'll earn any money from it. And about 2 to 3 days after I started my account and told everybody, I got a call from Yahoo,
Hmm.
Yahoo Singapore saying, hey, we've been following you for a while before you created the Smiling Afro
Okay.
personality thing. And we actually loved your style and what you do. But now that we see that you have like this, like went more like, hey, you're making something serious about it, we would like to do business with you. And I was like,
Wow,
wait, what?
first client being
Yeah.
Yahoo.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what? I literally started this for fun. You didn't give me at least like 6 months to like show something. But
Hmm.
based on my own Instagram page before I made it into like content, it was just random funny videos all the time, right? You like my stuff, and now you're like, hey, this guy is going serious. Maybe we should work with him. I was like, wow. But long story short, they gave me my first chance to really create content for a living. So
Hmm.
I it was on it was it was like a gig basis. So I was a contractor. I just had to make videos for them every month,
Okay.
and I caught traction in Singapore because people started seeing
Hmm.
my videos around from Yahoo, and they're like, wait, so there's this guy doing videos now, Chinese face with Afro hair. Who is this guy? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Wait, does he work for Yahoo or what does he
Yeah.
do? What does he do? Yeah, and that's when I realized a lot of potential gigs I could have gotten were
Hmm.
lost because everyone thought I was working for Yahoo as opposed to they were my client.
Yeah.
So 6 months after Yahoo contacted me, I decided to, register my own business. And so that I can officially tell the world that, hey, I'm running my own thing.
Hmm.
Let's talk. Let's do business. Right. And also at the same time, not a single advertising company replied my emails
Oh, right.
for a job. I applied
Yeah.
to almost every agency in Singapore I could think of. I did not get a single reply. So destiny, I guess. And yeah, so I officially launched my private limited registered business, Smiling Afro, in August 2018. So almost 6 months after I launched the channel for fun, right?
Okay. And
And
it became your life, right? Just out of
yes,
nowhere. Yeah.
it was so unexpected. I'm telling you, it was
Yeah.
so unexpected. Next moment, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm going to try to work in advertising, and now I'm making money off doing what I love. And yeah, in about a month and a half time is 6 years.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's
in a
amazing.
nutshell, that's how Money Afro was born in Singapore.
No, it's amazing, and it's something that I haven't seen your earlier work. I'm sure it was just as good, but I can really tell that it's a very uh, positive and family friendly content that really you love doing, and that really shows. And I think that's something that brands look for. They look for someone who's genuine in the content that they're creating, and probably that's what attracted Yahoo and all these other dozens of clients since then.
Thank you. Yes, and I think when I started, the beauty I feel of my content is when I started it before it became a business. It was solely I just wanted to make content in my style
Yeah.
and in my most honest and, like you say, genuine style. And I want audiences to watch and say, "This is who I am." Is him in his element, enjoying his work, as
And it
opposed
shows,
to
it absolutely
yeah,
shows in the content that you create. It shows that you genuinely love creating that kind of content. And I especially love the fact that it's very family friendly as well. And I think brands generally like that, because
yeah,
as opposed to someone who's very edgy and does weird stuff for fun. But so yeah, I can see the business appeal in that as a brand myself. But uh so again, as of right now, the Smiling Afro does a couple of things, right? So you have your own content that you put up on TikTok and Instagram,
yes,
and
Yes.
then you've got these brand deals that you have ongoing, and then you have
Yes.
your production studio, correct?
Yes. So yeah. So wow. So wow. I do many things, right? So
There's a lot
when
of
I
stuff,
started a
yeah.
channel, yeah, when I started a channel, I actually took inspiration from Nas Daily
Hmm.
because he grew big because of Facebook, right? And one
Yeah,
thing I learned from that is because Facebook had that beautiful share button,
yeah,
and that's how he grew so big. So he made videos. He had a very small audience of friends, family, and then but people were sharing his videos and it was spreading all over Facebook. And that share button is so easy. And I was like, hey, I could benefit from that as a starting out new creator, right? If I would just, if my audience like my work, they will share it, and that's how I grow my audience. And so that's why I started on Facebook first and YouTube. And
hmm,
then this was when I did more 16 by 9 content. Yeah.
yeah.
And longer form, like up to 3 to 5 minutes videos.
Okay,
But when COVID hit and then the whole world suddenly took a turn in like the way we consume content, and the 9 by 16 TikTok styles came about.
yeah,
So I would say I was kind of like I had to adapt.
yeah,
So I started creating instead of like I used to create videos only once a week, one video a week. It can be up to 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes long. It'll be 16 by 9. It'll be 1 week of production and before I release the video. But now I create multiple videos a week, 4 to 5 videos,
hmm,
and ranging from like a minute to 2 minutes, shorter from, easier to consume on my channels, right? So now that's what I do for fun. I still make those videos. I post, like you said, and I have brand deals that come to me to make videos to collab with them, or either on a campaign, their product, or their service. So that's where I get a
hmm.
bulk of my income from. And I also do hosting and acting on the side because ultimately
Okay,
I do have hosting background, acting background. So whenever someone's looking for a funky looking Asian guy, I'll be there hosting. Yeah,
wonderful.
and because my background is in filmmaking, so I do still do um, production that doesn't
Hmm.
require my face. So I still
Of course.
provide production services to clients just for video. Yeah, so man, I have my hands in like many pots.
No, I can see that, and I guess that's what it takes, because you can't really fully monetize, the content that you create without doing all this other stuff as well. Because these
Yeah,
platforms, since now you're mostly on TikTok's not really great for monetization, right?
no, I mean I guess also because
No.
in Singapore we never get a creator fund. Only in
Oh,
America
all right.
they have. Yeah,
Yeah.
America has budget, so America actually pays TikTokers and YouTubers and even Instagrammers for
Hmm.
the views. They actually
Yeah.
pay for views. Like if a video gets 1 million views, here's X amount of money. But in Singapore,
Mm.
my video gets 1 million views, it's just bragging rights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bragging rights. Yeah. So I rely on the clients that come to me and say, "Hey, we love your style. We just want to work with you." And that's what I'm very proud of.
Hmm.
I'm proud because most clients don't come up to me and say, "Hey, I want to work with you because you have X amount of followers," or "I want to work
Yeah.
with you because you have you get it, you can garner these views." No, they say, "I love your writing. I just love who you are, and I just want a genuine face to work with my brand."
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the whole theme. I've been interviewing a lot of people from this whole region who've created and run successful businesses, and the constant that I've found is that if you love what you're doing and you don't really care about where the money comes from and how many people follow you or like you, as long as you're true and passionate about what you're doing, the money will come. And I feel like that's been the story for you as well, that you've, regardless of, I'm sure you must have had the temptation of, creating some kind of persona, or something that shocks or creates some kind of disruption, because a lot of influencers eventually go down that route, that they try to create some
yeah,
controversy. But you've stayed
yeah,
true to your essence, right?
yeah, yeah. And I guess looking like this is quite controversial already in an Asian culture. So there's enough
Yeah, that's
controversy
that's
for.
actually that's actually where I wanted to yeah. No, that's actually where I wanted to lead the next question as well. So a lot
Yeah,
of our audience,
nice.
a lot of our audience is actually, foreigners who are trying to understand the markets that they're trying to, start businesses in. So
Okay.
you're based out of Singapore full time, correct?
Yes. Yes.
But in some of your content, you have that Malaysian aspect as well. So where does that come from?
Oh yes. So I guess Malaysia and Singapore we're more or less just the same kind of culture, and so
Hmm.
a lot of Malaysians can relate to my content, and so I try to collab with Malaysians when I can,
Hmm.
um, in order also for me to get a bit more reach into that region because Singapore, like I said, is so small,
Hmm.
and yeah, so and well, and honestly, because I love my culture, Malaysian culture, that's why I love to collab and just to make videos about you know just to share more about what it
Yeah.
means to be Singaporean or Malaysian. Yeah,
But
but
you mentioned
I
that.
do not. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry. So you mentioned that
Sorry. Yeah,
Singapore is already small, right? So
yeah.
how competitive is this niche that you're working in? Are there like 100 content creators who are all big, and you have to compete with everyone, or is there like there aren't a lot of influencers?
So wow, surprisingly, yeah, I have this conversation a lot with friends. There are so many influencers per se in this
Hmm.
country, right? Because I think it's super
Yep.
easy to
I,
be
I
one
like I like the
nowadays.
influencer part. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, even I myself, I don't even consider myself an influencer. I've always
Hmm.
just lose. I just, yeah, I mean, I guess most clients that's what they understand. But I always tell clients, I'm a content creator because I have to write everything and produce and create, as opposed to just take pictures on the beach, and
Of course.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So influencer wise, a lot.
Okay.
But I think there's only a handful of creators like me that actually treat this as a business. So
Of
we see
course.
it from a day to day in, day out creative outlook. We have a creative outlook like, okay, where's my business going to go? What's my content going to look like? We are always adapting, trying to be better and better. And it's all about also, earning a living, right?
Of
So yeah, I
course.
would say handful of us only, handful of us. And in terms of competitiveness, I always just tell my clients, well, for someone like me, the way I look, right, is you either want to work with me or you don't. There's no middle
Of
ground,
course. Yeah.
right? Especially in Asia, right? Because of
Hmm.
especially 6 years ago, it was very difficult for me because I was considered the look I have is considered a bit more rebellious in Asian culture. It's like,
Right.
oh, this
Yeah.
guy, he's not the clean cut, good Asian boy that we want to see online to represent our brand. That
Right.
guy who's yeah, he works a decent 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
He's yeah yeah. So, but weirdly enough, as the years went by, perspective has changed. Perspectives have changed in the industry in general. Like everyone wants to be now. People seem to be promoting more on like being yourself, being
Yeah.
different, being out of the box. So that's what I found. At least Singapore doing more, and
Hmm.
yeah. So many people now want. When I work with them, I always do my research and ask them. Am I yeah? Hey, why do you want to work? Can I ask why do you want to work? And they say, oh, we just wanted someone different. So, okay, cool. So I never found any competition per se. I feel that
Hmm.
I'm a very niche. I'm a market from that, you know, is attracted to work with me. And
Hmm.
yeah, until someone else comes along with a Chinese face and Afro hair,
And an
I
afro.
think I think I'm in my
You're
own
gonna be fine
little
until then. Yeah.
yeah, I think in my own little corner, just doing the
Yeah.
gigs.
Okay, so
Yeah.
on the content side, I can see you have such a strong, unique selling point. You're
Mhm.
you've got that unique aesthetic to the content that you do. Plus, you're family friendly, you're brand friendly, so you work with a lot of brands. But what about the production side of things? How much do you depend on that as a source of income? And is that something that if you don't do it, you'd be thinking that I really need to focus on this. So, what's the production side look like?
So honestly, as the years go by, I haven't been getting a lot of gigs just to do
Hmm.
production because everyone now thinks that they only can work with me if they need my face.
Of course.
So I have to constantly remind people, hey, I also do have a set of skills that I can I can be of service of right to any client. But it's very hard. I know it's very hard for people to automatically think of, hey, I'm just gonna get Ben to do my video. It's like no,
Hmm.
it's like hey, if Ben does the video for me, he has to be inside. Yeah, he has to be in
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. So yeah. But at the same time, I guess I'm also. not too worried about that part because I have currently, a steady flow of gigs that I'm caught up with and it's keeping me busy. That
Hmm.
I'm trying to just be in it, yeah, this busy. If there's so much more other gigs like just doing production, I may not be able to have a lot of time anyways. So
That makes sense. It takes a lot of work to create content that way, and in order to keep it genuine, you need to give it all the attention that you have anyway. Because
yeah,
when you start doing too much and then you create content, it kind of looks forced, and you do not want
yeah,
to look
yeah,
forced at all.
yeah,
People can tell, right?
yeah. Like, oh, he's just trying to post something
He's trying
today
too
just to
hard.
fill
Yeah.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
just need to fill out the quota for the day, and
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
but generally, you've said that you work with a lot of brands, and you get their gigs and stuff, and you still have a lot of stuff that you've got lined up. What kind of brands generally work with you? Or because I'm thinking that if as a foreigner, if I was to start a business in Singapore or in Malaysia, I would love to have a local influencer who not only understands my product and the international background that it comes with, but also understands the local market. So, is that the kind of clientele that you have, or do you work with a lot more local companies?
Wow, yeah. So that's a great question. I work with a whole range of clients from
Hmm.
local to global to SMEs to MNCs to super small businesses. So,
Hmm.
when launched my company, I this thing I told myself, I believe I can create a video for anything. I
Okay.
believe, I always tell people, I believe comedy can be used to promote anything.
Okay.
And I will never say no to a brand unless it doesn't make sense for my, like like maybe a shampoo for straight hair, like, it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense
that
to
would
me,
make
right?
sense.
So
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I usually will never turn something down because I think that it won't work. I always believe in a challenge. Yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah. So sometimes I think I had like one or two American companies come up to me just to make a video for them, and they will like do what they want to do with it in their markets in America. They just wanted
Hmm.
like my style of writing, my personality, so and so, to create the video for them.
Well,
Um,
then you
yeah,
do have examples of content creators who've gone both ways. So you're big in your own market, and then you're big in the American and the European markets. And
yeah,
the biggest example from your region would be what's the guy's name? Uncle Rogers, I believe.
yeah,
So
yeah,
he became big in his own market, and then he also became really big in the
yes,
US. So is
yes,
that the next step
yes.
in your evolution as well?
I've always felt, you know um, there's some things where I can't really plan. Like for
Hmm.
example, Uncle Roger, Nigel Ng, he's a friend of mine. Yeah, and I
Wonderful.
remember when we first met. Yeah, he was very small. He was just grinding his YouTube,
Yeah.
trying out stand up comedy, pushing it out, and he had an audience in the UK and Malaysia and Singapore here and there. But sometimes it just took that one video
Absolutely.
where
Yeah.
he roasted the Malaysian, no, the British Indian girl about rice or something,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
yeah, and it was all, of course, in comedy for good. It's just parody or satire, but he just took that one video and suddenly he blew up,
And
right?
that's the thing, you
So
can't
and
really
and he didn't
plan
get,
that, right? So
yeah,
I can,
yeah,
putting myself in
yeah,
your shoes, you just put out content and one of it will become viral, but you
yeah,
can't plan it. You can just put
yeah,
out good content all the time.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I feel like he probably didn't even plan to become that
Yeah.
big. Like ideally, I know he wanted to be well sustainable,
Hmm.
have a healthy audience, so that he can continue funding his content. But
Hmm.
that blow up was like intense and immense and very fast. And next
Hmm.
moment he's like getting gigs with the stars.
Gordon Ramsay. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's like the kind of like trajectory that he went, and he just went up, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that, I don't want to plan for these things, I just want to take it as it comes, right? Like,
Hmm.
who's to know, in another universe, that video he did could have only 1,000 views and no one gave a shit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But sometimes just timing. It was just the right timing.
Yeah.
You got the right traction. And yeah. So that's why I feel like, for me, I just want to continue making my content,
Hmm.
entertaining the audiences that already follow me, and well, potentially entertain new audiences when eventually someone might find my video. If something happens one day in the future, I'll adapt to the situation. But one thing I'll never stop doing is just making sure that my content is at least me. Yeah.
No, I'd still say that your following is still quite big. You've got what 100,000 on Instagram and 300,000 on TikTok, I believe.
Yeah, almost there. Yeah. So I kind of like when I first joined TikTok in 2020, it was very slow, but
Hmm.
I found that niche where short form, simple comedy content is very popular on TikTok, right? Especially in the early
Yeah.
2021, 2022. And that's when I started creating, yeah, like it's something like the Uncle Roger thing, It's just one video for
Mm.
fun.
Yeah.
Literally, okay, I was inspired by this Pakistani lady. She made a
Hmm.
very simple video, okay,
Hmm.
about how Pakistanis say beg your pardon, or
Uh,
excuse me, or can you say that again?
hmm.
Yeah, and she did like, huh? Right? But and so
Yeah,
I
we
was
do
like,
that
hey,
all the
that's what
time.
we do
Yeah.
in Singapore too.
Yeah.
That's what Singaporeans do when we cannot hear you. Instead of saying, sorry, can you repeat that? We just, huh?
Yeah.
So I just did that for fun. It was like a 6 second, 7 second video.
Hmm.
And then I blew up.
Yeah.
I blew
So
up. And
exactly,
then
it's just that one video, right? Yeah.
yeah. And then I realized because I blew up and had traction, almost every other video I posted was big because of the traction the algorithm gave me. So
Okay.
it's literally catching the wave, right? As they say. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and so yeah, that's how I got a very big following. Is people enjoy, they just hey, we just enjoy the way you do it. It's just the way you did it, and I guess everyone wants a good laugh, you know, on
Absolutely.
social media.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
So, in terms of how sustainable your business is right now, do you feel like this industry would remain the way that it is, or are you always thinking that something's going to change because you're getting brand deals right now, but you need to consistently keep on having these brand deals in order to keep this business sustainable. So, what does this future look like for the Smiling Afro?
So ideally, I would like to grow my team. I'm
Hmm.
currently a one man show and I work with freelancers on a project basis. But ideally, I want to grow my team so that we can start creating bigger content and a
Hmm.
higher budget content. Work with clients to do more brand work, long term brand work, as opposed to like
Yeah.
1 gig. But like, hey, if Smiling Afro were to work with brand X, like let's do a year long partnership where we create content around it
Hmm.
so that there's more legitimacy in the promotions, for example. And also because, the brand Smiling Afro always represented just, just having a good time, having a good laugh, yeah, being entertained. So I do eventually also want to like venture into working with more brands on collaborations, on like colorful, just quirkiness and
Yeah.
happiness more than just social media content. Like it
Yeah.
could be bright, colorful T-shirts or, for example, merchandise. Like basically, I want people when they see the brand, they're like, hey, it's about joy.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
I guess we've seamlessly transitioned into the next question I was about to ask is that we've seen a lot of influencers who've gone into creating a business like a product using their existing clout that and their existing
yeah,
followers.
yeah,
So have you considered that, because obviously merchandise is like the first step, so you create
yeah.
t-shirts and all that following stuff and then you have drops for them, and but have you considered starting a business using your persona?
Yeah, many times. I've actually, I played with many ideas, be it cafe, restaurant, um, or whatever kind of shop I can
Hair
find.
care products,
With,
I don't know,
yeah, hair
maybe.
care products. Yeah, literally
Yeah.
last week someone asked again, "Hey, you really should do your hair care products,"
Yeah.
and yeah. So I do have. I always thought of it like because it'll be so fun. I think what I built here is such a fun name,
Hmm.
uh, and I would love to eventually launch products or you know F&B, right? Yeah,
Yeah, but you
yeah,
definitely need a team for that, right?
yeah,
You can't really do all of
yeah,
that alone. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. To get more, I might hire full times, or who knows, I might work with agencies, and they can just
Hmm.
handle it on the side.
Absolutely. So again, I want to tie this back with people who might be watching and who are considering starting their businesses in these markets, or even influencers who want to perhaps cater to an audience in these markets. So how does this market differ in terms of the content that it consumes? I know that globally we now have pretty much the same trends of short form content that that's not too much attention grabbing. It's just feel good content and people like to scroll through it. But what are some of the cultural nuances in this market that you really have to take care of when you're creating content?
Hmm, cultural nuances.
Like what kind of content you
Yeah,
can do and what kind of content you can't do
yeah.
in this market?
Well, I guess yeah, it's really related to the so-called woke culture, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because so I know I've always known comedy is getting more and more difficult to do nowadays because
Yeah.
a lot of people can't take a joke anymore, or they don't understand, or they have a lesser of a sense of humor, and like so I love to do jokes to I love to use jokes and comedy
Mm-hmm.
to talk about social issues.
Okay.
For example, racial differences or racism or stereotypes. To me, the best way to tell a story or to remind people about certain situations or certain societal things that we all do that may seem a bit like, discriminating. I think comedy
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to create that story, to start the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, but I know as the years go by, I know it's getting harder even for me to do it because a lot of people, instead of like looking into, hey, what's the video trying to say? It's more like, oh, you said it, you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
I get that. Yeah.
like, oh, you did the Indian accent, but no, there's a context to why,
Yeah.
but no, you did it. That's it. Yeah, that's the argument. You
But
did it.
I'd actually ask,
Yeah,
is are the
yeah,
people complaining Indians or other people?
other people.
Yeah, because if you were to do a
Yeah,
Pakistani accent right now, I
yeah,
would love
yeah,
it because it's
yeah.
representation. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and all my Indian friends that we've been with, they're like they love Indian jokes. Like, they're like, hey, you're
Yeah.
not like literally being racist. You're taking a stereotype, and making fun of it. And we also understand something. If I come out and make a video and like say, oh, I hate Group X, that's it.
Yeah,
There's
that
no
would be
comedy to
direct,
it.
right?
There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
yeah, there's no laughing matter. I'm just making a statement. Fine, like sue me, right? But if I
Yeah.
just do a funny video to say, hey, this is what I noticed my Indian friends do, and then they agree, yeah, we do that, and then it's just a fun time laughing because we're just it's observational comedy. But now
Yeah.
it's even so sensitive because it's like you cannot do that because you are not Indian or you don't look Indian.
Now it's
It's-
you know
yeah,
what? On
yeah.
behalf of people from the subcontinent, I give you full authority to do that accent. we we're not going to be upset, and I'm pretty sure I speak for all people of the subcontinent. Just go ahead and do it. It's fine.
Yeah, but like you said, it's usually the people who attack me for for
Yeah.
some of my comedic stuff are not even the people they represent. They're
Exactly.
trying
Yeah.
to, yeah. Like, I'll give you a big example, right? I knew it was going to come one day. So this is my
Hmm.
natural hair. I got it from because I'm mixed race. So I got it from my bloodline, which traces back
Oh
all the
no, I
way
can
to
see where this is
Indonesia.
going. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I knew it was going to come from the woke culture. People came up to me online or in my direct messages, my DMs, saying that how could I grow the hair of black people
Oh man.
and do comedy? And they're like, and I was like, and sometimes I like to entertain them. So I would say, what do you mean? What do you mean? They're like, oh,
Yeah.
I feel that Afro is only for black people. So when
Hmm.
you grow an Afro and you do comedy, you're making people laugh at you with black people hair.
Oh my god.
Therefore, you're making fun of black people. And I'm like, what?
Oh my
Like,
god.
how do you link? And I say, hey, you do know Afro wigs have been around since the disco era,
Yeah.
because in the disco era, the Afro hairstyle was a trend.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can bet, I say in the 70s, 80s, not a single African American complained about the disco culture
Yeah.
stealing the hairstyle. In fact, everybody was like, yeah, let's have a good time. You
Yeah.
know, it's your expression of hair. Salons were trying to help people do afros. So are
Yeah.
you going to tell salons that no, I want you to stop earning money or your craft? Like, yeah. And So yeah, the fact that
So,
they could
so
link.
has that come into Singapore as well, or is that from other markets that you get this kind of feedback?
Wow, it's mainly local, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, yes, and I tell you, it's not from, like you mentioned, it's not from black people. Like in fact, when I
Hmm.
was studying in the UK, I had so
Hmm.
many African American, as in like African heritage ladies coming up to
Hmm.
me and saying they love my hair,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and they will spontaneously come up to me on the train or on the streets. Hey, I just want to say I love it. I love
Yeah.
it, and I'm like, great. And then you have somebody who's not at all related. You can't do that. You can't have that on your head. I'm like, okay.
It's not like you put it there on
Yeah.
purpose. It's just the way your
Yeah.
hair grows out, man. It's
Yeah.
just
And I'm like, yeah, sure. Stop dyeing your hair red, lady.
yeah.
Because I'm sure a lot of gingers are upset too. You know, like right, like so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but I think
So
that would be that could show, again, I'm trying to link everything back to, what my audiences generally look for. And, you know, I'd say that, this is something I didn't know, that Singapore now has that kind of liberal woke culture as well, which I'm sure it has its positives as well. But there are definitely, negative elements to it. And this is something that brands kind of should watch out for, that they cannot be as, shocking in a market like Singapore then.
yeah, I think society now is just more sensitive.
Hmm.
But then again, what does that mean, right? Because a lot of people my generation, we grew up laughing at things anyways. You know, we grew up with I don't know if you know the famous British comedy Mind Your Language.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes, and it people are saying if it was shown now, it will get cancelled because
Oh, yeah.
it was on stereotypes. But it was hilarious because even the people who are represented in the, they love it. We all loved it. It was funny. It's true.
Yeah.
We do speak like this. We do speak like
No,
this. It was
I
pretty accurate.
especially I love the Pakistani and Indian actors in that,
Yeah,
because they're
yeah,
constantly fighting and bickering, and
exactly.
then yeah, it's funny, right?
There's this is some part historically accurate because the Pakistan
Yeah,
Indians have the history, right? So
absolutely,
and they were
yeah,
not shy of showing that, but
yeah.
ultimately they were still friends in the show.
That's what matters. I
Yeah,
was just gonna
that's what
say that's
matters,
what
right?
matters. Yeah,
Yeah, they were sat next to each other. They argue all the time for comedic reasons, but they were still friends.
yeah,
There was no malice. And that to me is comedy. But no, the woke audience will look at it. No, you can't even say it. You cannot show a Pakistani and Indian sitting next to each other. You cannot. It's no. And
I get
so
that.
yeah, so I feel the audiences now are more sensitive. But I was saying, how do we measure that, right?
Hmm.
Because online comments, if you don't like the people who don't like a video are louder than the people who like a video. It's a
Of
fact.
course,
Right? Because if you like the
absolutely.
video, you enjoy it. You don't really need to say much. But if you don't like something, you just need 10 people to say it and suddenly your video is bad. But
Yeah.
is it bad just because 10 people don't like it? Yeah, but like I said, I think over the past few years, many ads have been taken down and many videos have been criticized because they did something that the woke audience doesn't like. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Well,
I
other
mean, I
than
have not had
yeah.
the situation yet.
Hmm.
I have not had
Because you've kept
uh
it very family
yeah,
friendly, right?
so
Yeah,
far, right? So far.
yeah.
But as a comedian, sometimes I just want to like say something because it's great. It's a great joke, and it's
Yeah.
all in just fun and laughter, right? But I just waiting for, yeah. If I
Yeah.
release this, there might be I might have to be doing
Backlash,
some
yeah.
apologies that I don't want to do.
Yeah, that seems
Yeah,
like the general trend now, is just make
yeah,
comedy and then apologize later.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so so there's this liberal side to things. I can see in Singapore that the woke culture is generally taking hold. What about the traditional side? Is that still existent, or the traditional cultural values that are really strong in
Yes,
any country, really?
I think we still have our fair share of. I'm very traditional too. I believe
Hmm.
in remembering and respecting where I came from, right? So I do like to mix modern with my traditional beliefs. And I think in Singapore it's the same. Like, okay, it used to be very traditional, but now
Hmm.
because of social media and the trends and the Gen Z and different kind of like in a culture of like video content online, the country is slowly moving to have a balanced view. Like, okay, we keep traditional content, but we also invite modern outlooks, right? Yeah.
Of course.
So I'm actually quite happy where Singapore is going towards, like slow baby steps, right? As opposed to not wanting to open up to modern ideas or modern ways of thinking. Yeah.
So that's good because when a country starts doing that, that's when you start attracting, foreigners who want to, start businesses or work in your region. And so how's that been like post COVID? Have a lot more foreigners been coming into, Singapore to set up their businesses and stuff?
Yeah, I think, well, for number one reason why people come to Singapore is because it's very low tax, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great place, and the location in the middle of Southeast Asia is a perfect place for to be a hub. So that has always attracted businesses. But at the same time, the only thing that is the biggest negative is the price.
Yeah.
But I guess sometimes for quality stuff, there's a price, right?
Yeah. No, but generally
Yeah,
living in,
yeah,
comparing it even to Malaysia, there's a
yeah.
big difference in the cost of living.
There's very big difference, very big difference. Yeah, but I think for businesses wise, Singapore is still a
Mhm.
very good place to have a HQ to do business in the region
Yeah,
because
but
of
so
yeah.
a lot of businesses do consider keeping something in Singapore or let's say Dubai,
Yes,
where these are both
yes,
very
definitely.
expensive markets, but then
Yeah,
they consider living in Malaysia. So have you made
yep.
that consideration?
Many times, but I love my country so much, and
Ah, right.
I grew up, I was raised here, and I was like, do I want to do the commute every day or every other day? But
Mm.
yeah, I'm okay to contribute a bit to my economy, I guess.
That's wonderful. That's a great way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But then
So,
do you feel like I'm thinking about the future of your brand and what you're building, and I can feel that when you have a team and you've got your merchandise out and you're making longer form content, you definitely have a steady growth in terms of your following and the brand deals. But do you feel like you need to move to a different market to really propel that brand, or are you okay with being Singapore based?
so I've always wanted to be Singapore based, and I always believed
Hmm.
that I can be based there and build my brand around the region.
Hmm.
Like, with the beauty of social media, right? And
Yeah.
um, whatever it is, I would love to eventually start working more with Southeast Asian countries
Hmm.
because I've always tried to represent myself as very relatable and not just a Singaporean guy, but somebody who loves to make content and loves to just be an online personality.
Hmm.
And but Singapore will always be based. Yeah, and
Okay.
in fact, it's nice because TikTok has helped me. In fact, IG Reels too, right? Like, once in a while, I get random friends who go to Thailand or they have Thai work, Vietnamese workers, Thai workers, Indonesian workers, and then they become somehow I will come. My name will appear in a topic, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, that's a Singaporean guy. I've seen him on TikTok. I've seen him on IG." And these are people who are living in, like, you know
Thailand, yeah.
quiet places in
Yeah.
Vietnam, that I never would never go in my life, and they've
Mhm.
seen me, and that to me is such a big thing. And
And you know what? That's
yeah,
because you've kept even though you've got strong Singaporean roots, you've
mm,
kept your content generic enough that it can be
yeah,
viewed throughout Southeast Asia and
yeah,
still make sense to people, right?
yeah. And the thing is that I guess even when I do my Singaporean content, people in the region they love it, right? And I think
Yeah.
it's likewise like how I love to see content of other cultures, right? Like, if a Pakistani, like example, the Pakistani lady that inspired me,
Yeah.
I didn't swipe away in the moment she said in Pakistan. I was like, oh yeah, I want to know
Yeah.
what
That's
what
gonna be
happens in
funny. Yeah.
Pakistan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't was like, oh no, not my business. And I realized I guess people around the world they love it too. When I come in the video and I say, well, in Singapore, and people are like, oh yeah, so what does this guy have to say about Singapore? Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Singapore. I've been there.
Yeah.
What does he have to say? Yeah, yeah,
No,
and
it's I
yeah,
guess it's the whole idea that the world is now becoming a global village, which
yeah,
could be a good thing and a bad thing, but
yeah.
these differences are now celebrated, and I'm so happy to see that the influence that people can have across markets, even if it's just making people laugh. It's still influence, right?
Yeah.
And that is, I believe, what a real influencer does. It's not just taking shots of
Yeah.
yourself on the beach, but it's influencing how people feel about something, about
Yes.
and representing where you're from and showing people a different view from what they're used to. So
Yes.
in that regard, I think what the direction that you're going in is an actual real influencer.
That's
But you
beautiful.
but you like calling yourself a content creator, right? So that's,
Yeah.
again, that's the thing. If you call yourself an influencer all the time, you're technically not an influencer, because you yeah. But if you actually create good content that's
Yeah.
making some influence, that makes you an
Yeah.
influencer, right?
True.
Yeah.
Like, I guess my content influences. Yeah. So I'm a content creator, and creating content that influences a happy feeling is what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds better
I
than
think
influencer, I
that's
guess.
that's yeah, I get that. There's such a stigma attached to the influencer
Yeah.
word
Right.
now,
There's
and
such a
yeah, no one
stigma.
wants to be called. Yeah,
It's like, honestly, when someone comes up to you and is like, "Hey, what do you do?" Say, "Oh, I'm an influencer." You just,
they're
oh,
like, oh, he
you
just
get
takes
like
pictures
the,
all day.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Most people won't be like, "Oh," it's like,
yeah.
"Oh, okay,
Why you can't get a
cool."
job? Yeah,
Yeah. So your parents are rich, right? Okay.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ben, I'd like to head us to a closing, and I feel like
Yeah.
you and I can talk for an hour more, but I wouldn't want to take that much of your time. I know you're super busy as
No
well.
worries.
But
Yeah.
in the end, I always like my guests to have a moment of like an elevator pitch for themselves. So if any businesses want to get in touch with you, how
Yeah.
can they do that? What's your process of work, if you'd like to tell my audiences?
Okay. Well, in case you're only watching this part, hi guys, my name is the Smiling Afro. I'm a content creator based in Singapore, and one of the things I do for clients is I create content for either your campaign, your service, or your product, or whatever you have in mind. And my style is to basically create a comedic video to help entertain an audience and also connect your audience to your brand, and in a fun, quirky way. And yeah, because I love selling true story, and that's what I want to do with you potentially. And so, if you're looking for a quirky guy that you've never seen before, and possibly will never see one again like me, why not? Yeah.
So how do they get in touch with you? Instagram?
Oh yes, sorry. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. Preferably Instagram at the Smiling Afro. You can find my email details there to get in touch, or you can just send me a DM on Instagram. And you get in touch with me for work, or just even to have a chat. Why not?
Fantastic. And I feel like a lot of our foreign audiences who want to understand the market can really benefit from what
Yep.
we've spoken about as well, and they would love to get in touch with you. And I feel like we could get in touch as well for something for Emmer Hub, but we'll connect for that later,
Yep.
because you said you
Sounds good.
host events as well, right?
Yes.
So we do have events. I'm sure that a lot of our audiences have events in Malaysia and Singapore, and would love to have a unique host like yourself. So I
Nice.
really look forward to hopefully meet you in Singapore or Malaysia. And
Yeah.
again, I gotta say, keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. And
Thank you.
what was your tagline again? Go with the fro. I love
Yeah.
that, man.
When in doubt, go with the flow.
And I guess that is the perfect place to end this podcast. Thank you so much, Ben, for being
Thanks,
on the
man.
podcast. And
No
let's
problem.
just go with the fro.
Go with the flow, guys.
While the world's still asleep, we're already grinding. Walking foreign streets, big city lights so blinding. Learning and hustling in this relentless game. The emerge pods next up, we're breaking the frame. Yeah, while the world's